Welcome to This Explainer. You know, as a sports historian, there are certain tournaments you look back on and just instantly realize absolutely nothing was the same after this. The 1994 FIFA World Cup, hosted right here in the United States, is undeniably one of those massive watersheds. It was a tournament that completely defied the skeptics, shattered records that literally still stand today, and fundamentally altered the entire trajectory of global soccer. So today, we're going to take a trip back. We're going to look at the legendary matches, the wild spectacle, and that absolutely historic final that cemented the legacy of '94. Okay, let's dive right into this. To truly grasp the sheer magnitude of this tournament, we've got to set the scene. Back in 1988, when FIFA actually awarded the hosting rights to the United States, purists around the globe saw it as a completely reckless, high-stakes gamble. The burning question on everyone's mind was exactly this: how in the world could a country without a top-flight professional soccer league successfully host the sport's most prestigious event? Well, the answer to that played out over one magical month in the summer of '94.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the staggering contrast it shows. Just a decade prior to the tournament, the reality of American soccer was pretty grim. The North American Soccer League, which had once featured megastars like Pelé, had completely folded in 1984 because of dwindling attendance. Professionally speaking, the sport was practically dead in the water. But despite all those loud initial doubts, the 1994 World Cup drew an astounding average attendance of almost 69,000 fans per game. It was just an absolute explosion of popularity that, frankly, nobody saw coming.
And the sheer scale of that success? It's perfectly captured by this massive figure right here, 3,587,538. That is the total attendance for the 1994 World Cup. To put that into perspective, that is a record that still stands today, the highest total attendance in World Cup history, period. So how did they pull it off? Well, the U.S. essentially leveraged its massive, pre-existing American football stadiums. We're talking colossal venues like the Pontiac Silverdome and the Rose Bowl, creating these unprecedented, roaring crowds that absolutely dwarfed the capacities of your traditional European or Latin American stadiums.
But come on, it wouldn't be an American tournament without a uniquely over-the-top American opening spectacle, right? On June 17th at Chicago Soldier Field, the world got a ceremony emceed by none other than Oprah Winfrey, and it was officially opened by President Bill Clinton. But the absolute most unforgettable moment, that belonged to music legend Diana Ross. She was supposed to score a penalty kick as part of this highly choreographed stunt where the goal would dramatically split in two. Well, she completely missed the ball, sent it wide left, but the goalpost hilariously collapsed anyway right on cue. It was chaotic, it was grand, and it perfectly set the tone for a tournament that was going to be full of surprises. Section 1. The Underdogs and Surprises. Bulgaria's Cinderella Story. So while the host nation was crushing it operationally and commercially off the pitch, the tournament delivered some incredibly shocking storylines on it. And honestly, no story captured the world's imagination quite like the Cinderella run of the Bulgarian national team. To understand just how crazy their run was, look at this number: 0. Heading into the summer of '94, Bulgaria had actually played in 5 previous World Cup tournaments, and across all of those appearances, they had 0 victories, not a single one. They were completely written off, a team literally no one expected to survive the group stage, let alone make a deep run.
But man, did they flip the script. Led by their absolute talisman, Hristo Stoichkov, who actually ended up sharing the tournament's golden boot with 6 goals, Bulgaria just went on a tear. First, they survived a grueling, nerve-wracking penalty shootout against Mexico in the round of 16. But then came the true jaw-dropper. In the quarterfinals, they went up against the reigning world champions, a unified Germany. Trailing 1-0, it looks like the dream was over. But Stoichkov scores this brilliant equalizer, and then literally 3 minutes later, Yordan Lechkov heads in the winner to secure a monumental 2-1 upset. It was, without a doubt, a giant killing for the ages. Section 2, the historic Rose Bowl final, Brazil versus Italy. Let's move to the grand finale and see how this all builds up. After weeks of exhausting matches played in, frankly, oppressive heat and humidity all over the U.S., only 2 Titans were left standing. On July 17th, the entire sporting world zoomed in on the Rose Bowl in Pasadena, California, where absolute heavyweights Brazil and Italy clashed for the championship. Now, if you were tuning in hoping for a high-scoring, chaotic shootout, well, this wasn't it. It was incredibly tense. We're talking a high-stakes, tactical chess match played under the grueling California sun. Through 90 minutes of regulation, nobody gave an inch. The match dragged into 30 minutes of extra time,
but the scores stubbornly sat at 0-0. For 120 agonizing minutes, these two powerhouses just threw everything they had at each other, but the defenses simply wouldn't break. And that scoreless gridlock led us to a moment of immense historical weight. For the very first time in the entire storied history of the FIFA World Cup, the ultimate prize in global soccer was going to be decided by a penalty shootout. Can you imagine the tension? Over 94,000 fans packed into that stadium, practically holding their breath. The World Cup was going to come down to the incredibly cruel, highly dramatic lottery of penalty kicks. The sequence of events that unfolded in those final minutes is permanently etched into the minds of every single sports fan watching. Through 4 rounds, Brazil managed to inch ahead, taking a 3-2 lead. That meant Italy's survival rested squarely on the shoulders of their iconic playmaker, Roberto Baggio. Now, remember, Baggio was the reigning FIFA World Player of the Year. He had virtually dragged Italy to this final on his own back, and he was doing it all while playing through an injury. He steps up to the spot. He has to score. He leans back, strikes the ball, and sends it soaring completely over the crossbar. In that one split second, the absolute agony on Baggio's face was matched only by the sheer unbridled ecstasy of the Brazilians rushing the field. And you have to remember, this wasn't just another trophy. This victory made Brazil the very first nation in history to win 4 World Cup titles. It was such a beautiful, deeply emotional scene. You had Brazilian captain Dunga receiving the trophy from U.S. Vice President Al Gore. And in an incredibly touching moment, the Brazilian team dedicated their historic, hard-fought title to the legendary Formula One driver Ayrton Senna, a deeply beloved national hero in Brazil who had tragically passed away just 2.5 months prior. Section 3. A lasting soccer legacy. So the crucial point here is that a tournament isn't just measured by the final whistle, right? It's measured by what it leaves behind. And the '94 World Cup didn't just smash attendance records, it created permanent cultural shifts that quite literally shaped the modern game. For example, 1994 was the first World Cup to award 3 points for a group stage win instead of 2, a really smart move by FIFA to encourage aggressive, attacking soccer. It also fulfilled a massive promise to FIFA by paving the way directly to the founding of Major League Soccer, or MLS, ensuring professional soccer was back in America for good. And here's a fun one. American broadcasters introduced the constant on-screen TV score bug and game clock. Before '94, you literally just had to guess how much time was left or wait for a graphic to pop up. Today, you absolutely cannot imagine watching a sport without it. And that brings us to a really fascinating thought to wrap up this explainer. The 1994 World Cup proved once and for all that soccer couldn't just survive, but it could massively thrive on the biggest stage right here in the United States. It pushed the world's game into a totally new frontier. So as the US, Mexico, and Canada gear up to co-host the newly expanded 2026 World Cup, you've got to ask yourself, how on earth will they build on this incredible foundation? That watershed summer of '94 changed everything, and we can only wait and see what the next chapter holds for the beautiful game. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and hey, keep your eyes on the pitch.